Discover miraculous acts of faith, 12 transforming stories that reveal God's incredible plan. In the days when the judges ruled, a famine struck the land of Canaan, compelling a man from Bethlehem to journey to the land of Moab with his wife and 2 sons. During their sojourn, tragedy struck. The man died, leaving Naomi a widow. Her sons took Moabite wives, Orpah and Ruth, only for them to meet with grief when both sons also perished. Naomi, hearing that the Lord had visited his people, resolved to return to Bethlehem, embracing the promise of hope. Ruth, the Moabite widow, exemplified unwavering loyalty as she pursued Naomi, declaring emphatically, "Where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God." This heartfelt affirmation struck a chord in Naomi, whose heart was heavy with loss. Together, they traversed the rugged terrain from Moab to Bethlehem, apprehensive yet hopeful, unearthing the buried promise of divine provision and community. Upon entering the town, their return did not slip by unnoticed. Whispers vibrated through the crowd. How could 2 women, one foreign and devoid of protection, expect to endure? Ruth's resolve ignited within her a willingness to glean in the fields, adhering to the Mosaic law which mandated landowners to leave behind the gleanings for the poor and the sojourner. With each grain she gathered close to the earth, Ruth's heart weighed with uncertainty, yet trust in the God of Israel nudged her onward. It was in the field of Boaz, Naomi's kinsman, that her fortunes began to shift. Boaz, having observed her diligent work, approached her with kindness. He spoke words that rang with hope and warmth, commanding his reapers to offer her not only safety but abundant harvest. "May the Lord pay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." In that moment, the heaviness that shadowed them began to lift, days turned into weeks, and Ruth returned to Naomi, her arms laden with barley, her faith weaving threads of providence through their lives. Naomi's heart began to fill with rekindled hope as she recognized the threads of God's faithfulness in Ruth's obedience and Boaz's generosity. Yet, with joy came the specter of uncertainty. What would the future hold for Ruth? Then, in a moment of divine wisdom, Naomi sensed an opportunity for redemption. She instructed Ruth with care to approach Boaz at the threshing floor, a significant and daring step. "Shall I lay at his feet, as you advise?" Ruth asked, anxiety mingling with fervent hope. As twilight descended, bringing shadows of uncertainty, Ruth steeled herself. This bold act demanded immense trust in God's provision and Boaz's character. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Ruth prepared to confront her fears, she stepped forward into the night, embodying courage born from faith. The air was thick with anticipation. Would Boaz recognize her virtue or dismiss her in her moment of vulnerability? What divine destiny awaited Ruth, the Moabite widow born of loss yet steadfast in loyalty? The unfolding of God's plan lingered on the horizon, tantalizingly close, yet shrouded in the mystery of faith and obedience. As the night sky enveloped the land, Ruth approached the threshing floor, her heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and hope. The sound of hushed voices faded away as she neared the mound of gathered grain, where Boaz lay, his eyes closed in slumber, oblivious to the stirring events around him. An ethereal stillness surrounded her, a divine invitation prompting her to step forward. "Who are you?" A voice broke the silence, cutting through her thoughts. It was Boaz, roused from his rest. With wide eyes, he beheld the figure before him, her presence illuminated by the glow of stars. "I am Ruth, your maidservant," she replied, her words trembling yet firm. "Spread your wing over your maidservant, for you are a near relative." The request emerged softer than the whispers of the wind, yet it carried the weight of Naomi's counsel and the hope of a future intertwined with redemption. Boaz's heart stirred upon hearing her plea, and he recognized the boldness of her faith. "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter," he spoke, genuine admiration coloring his voice. "You have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, for you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich." In that vulnerable moment, Ruth felt the warmth of his acceptance, yet the resolve within Boaz was akin to the very grain they tended, honorable and steadfast. "It is true that I am a redeeming relative," he continued, "but there is a closer relative than I. Remain here until morning, and let it be known that you are with me. I will do this thing, if he will not redeem you." As he assured her, he placed barley into her shawl, heavy with promise, her heart leaping within her. The dawn broke with a muted glow, and as Ruth made her way back to Naomi, she carried not just the grain, but the hope of divine providence enfolding them both. Naomi awaited her with bated breath, her ancient eyes reflecting the sun's newfound light. "What happened, my daughter?" she inquired, leaning closer, her heart fluttering with the adventures of a new day. "Boaz has pledged himself to me," Ruth said, her voice steady, recounting the kindness and commitment of the one who would watch over them. Yet Naomi held wisdom sharper than any blade. "Wait, my daughter, until you know how the matter will turn out, for the man will not rest until he has concluded the matter today." Their days flowed into an anticipation that spoke of miracles and changes in fate. Yet lurking beneath this sacred anticipation, a tension hung like an unwritten letter, waiting for a response. What would the closer relative say? Would he forfeit the claim to redeem Ruth, or would he draw her back into a barren future? As the sun hung high in the sky, Boaz approached the city gates, gathering the honorable men of Bethlehem, determined to confront the matter at hand. With each step he took, so did the weight of history resound. He would not only affect Ruth's life, but herald a lineage that would change the course of eternity. And there, as the men convened, the unfolding saga of Ruth's faith approached a climax that would reveal the fingerprints of God upon a broken world, an intricate tapestry of redemption, longing, and divine promise unfurling at last. What would the day unveil? In the quest for answers, the sovereign hand of God remained, shaping destinies hidden in the folds of faith. For little did they know, the story was not merely about Ruth and Boaz, but about a much bigger plan that God had orchestrated, a plan that would touch generations to come, and from which a king would arise, bearing the weight of the world's redemption. Would they walk boldly into this future of hope and promise? The answer lingered in the air, waiting for God's glorious revelation. As the sun ascended in its glory, casting radiant beams upon the gates of Bethlehem, the hearts of those gathered were heavy with expectation. Boaz stood among the elders, his face resolute and his spirit fortified by the gravity of what lay before him. "Sit down, my brethren," he called, and the elders responded, finding their places in the dust and stone of the city gates. With the air filled with the soft hum of murmurs, Boaz raised his voice, speaking to the closest kinsman. "Naomi, who has returned from the land of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our brother Elimelech. I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of those sitting here, and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, but if you will not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you." The kinsman, without hesitation, responded, "I will redeem it." A thrill of excitement rippled through the crowd, but Boaz, discerning the depths of the matter, pressed on. "But wait, for there is more to the matter. The day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must also acquire Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the deceased, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance." A heavy silence fell over the assembly as the implications sank in. The kinsman recoiled. "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance." "You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." At that moment, the duties of the Levirate law hung in the air, echoing through the generations as Boaz confirmed the decision. He turned to the elders and all the people, raising a sacred act into divine light. "You are witnesses this day, that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's, from the hand of Naomi. And moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired to be my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from the gate of his place, you are witnesses this day. A joyous uproar filled the air, men clasping hands and lifting voices in praise. May the Lord make the woman who is coming to your house like Rachel and Leah, the two who built the house of Israel, and may you prosper in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah, because of the offspring which the Lord will give you from this young woman. With a heart full of gratitude, Boaz took Ruth into his arms, and the heavens opened, as divine providence sealed this union which would lead to a lineage that spanned time and space, nurturing the promised line of David. In the stillness of that moment, the echoes of eternity stirred, but even as the celebration commenced, a deeper truth lingered in the unseen. For in this act of faith and redemption lay the very design of God's sovereign plan, weaving a narrative far greater than they could imagine. What would become of this union? What future awaited the child that would be born from their love and legacy? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the shadows of destiny stretched long, revealing only glimpses of the divine plot. In the hearts of men and women who believed, God's promise awaited, ready to unfurl into a magnificent tapestry of redemption that would one day echo through all generations and lead ultimately to the Savior of the world. Would they see the fullness of God's glory through their union? The answer remained veiled in sacred mystery, as God's great story was poised on the precipice of fulfillment. As dawn's gentle light bounded over the hills of Bethlehem, the air thrummed with the echoes of last night's celebration. Boaz and Ruth stood together beneath the picket fence of their new life, the townsfolk's blessings ringing in their ears like a divine chorus. Holding her hand closely, Boaz felt the weight of both joy and responsibility settle upon his shoulders, a man not merely to Ruth, but to the future that awaited them both. Meanwhile, Naomi, filled with pride and love, observed from a distance. Her heart leaped within her at the sight of Ruth's radiant beauty, a Moabitess transformed by faith into a daughter of Israel. "Blessed be the Lord," she murmured, her eyes glistening, "who has not left us without a Redeemer in Israel." Days turned into weeks as Ruth began her new life in her beloved husband's home. She became known for her diligence, gleaning in the fields, earning the admiration of the women of the town, who praised her for her loyalty and noble spirit. "The young Moabite has captured the heart of our kinsman," they would say. And who would have thought that true love could bloom amidst hardship? Yet little did they know, divine purposes were knitting their stories together. In the quiet mornings, as Ruth would go out to gather grain, she sensed a lingering presence, the hand of the Almighty guiding her each step. Field after field turned into a harvest of blessings, not only for herself but for Naomi as well. One evening, as twilight encircled the land, Ruth returned with abundant grain, spilling forth the bounty before Naomi. "All this I gathered in the fields of Boaz," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with delight. Naomi's heart swelled with hope, and she marveled, "My daughter, it is good that you have gone out with his maidens, lest you fall into another field." With wisdom crafted from decades of experience, Naomi outlined a plan, recalling the ways of their people. "Tonight," she instructed Ruth, "when Boaz lies down at the threshing floor to guard the harvest, you shall make your intentions clear, for the time of redemption is upon us." Thus, with a heart racing like a tender ember fanned to flame, Ruth prepared. She adorned herself in her finest robes, a delicate veil framing her gentle cheeks. As the stars flickered overhead, she approached the barn where Boaz lay. Under the cover of night, her steps quiet, Ruth found him asleep, his heart at rest after a day of labor. She uncovered his feet and lay down beside him, a humble plea woven into the stillness of the night. Awakening, Boaz was taken aback, heart pounding at the sight of Ruth, cloaked in faith and purpose. "Who are you?" he asked, gazing into her eyes, where courage blazed like a beacon. "I am Ruth, your maidservant," she replied softly. "Spread your wing over your maidservant, for you are a redeemer." A silence fell like dew, punctuating the tension, before Boaz spoke with tenderness and resolve. "Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter. You have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, for you did not go after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, do not fear, I will do for you all that you ask." The night stretched on, filled with whispered declarations and promises anew. But as hope ignited, an unseen thread of God's sovereign plan unfurled ever so slightly, revealing more than Ruth and Boaz could perceive. They stood not merely as individuals caught in a sacred union, but as vessels destined to carry forward a legacy that would transcend time, setting the stage for the promise of the Messiah. Yet the path was fraught with challenge, for Boaz spoke of another kinsman, one closer than he, yet his promise to Ruth was as steadfast as the mountains surrounding the land. Would they embrace this divine journey, faithful amid uncertainty, trusting in God's grand design? Even as they clasped hands beneath the stars, a holy mystery lingered, waiting to be unveiled: the future of David, the lineage of Christ, all resting upon their faith. The sacred story was but beginning, and as they ventured into the dawn of tomorrow, the divine tapestry remained ever in the hands of the Almighty. As dawn broke anew over Bethlehem, the air was imbued with the promise of what lay ahead. Boaz, stirred by the light, sat up from his slumber, heart heavy yet hopeful for the day to come. The memory of Ruth's words lingered like the fragrance of a blooming flower, her humble request echoing in the corridors of his heart. With purpose resolute, he prepared himself. Today, Boaz thought, I must fulfill my duty. He donned his garment, a symbol of his position and honor, and gathered the finest men of the city, for he would address the matter of the nearer kinsman. Meanwhile, Ruth remained at home, her heart beating with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. The echoes of Naomi's loving encouragement resonated within her: "Trust in the Lord, my daughter, for he has not forsaken you." In the quietness of the morning, she knelt down to pray, her words entwined with petitions for guidance and favor. As Boaz approached the town gate, a place bustling with life and business, he called out to the kinsman who had the first right of redemption. "Come aside, friend, and sit here." The man, curious and slightly wary, complied, and as they settled among the elders of the town, a tension hung in the air. "Naomi, who has returned from the land of Moab, is selling the parcel of land that belonged to our brother Elimelech. It is your right to redeem it, should you choose," Boaz began. He carefully laid out the terms, watching the kinsman's face for the slightest shift, knowing that this decision held weight not only for Ruth but for the lineage promised by God. "Yes, I will redeem it," came the man's eager response, his eyes gleaming with ambition, but Boaz, knowing that Ruth's heart was tied to this blessing, pressed on. "But there is a matter of significance. The day you buy the field from Naomi, you must also acquire Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the deceased, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance." At this revelation, the kinsman recoiled, his countenance shifting from eagerness to alarm. "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it." A murmur rippled through the crowd, reflecting the surprise of the onlookers. Boaz's heart soared, for the way was now clear. He turned toward the elders, securing their witness as he sealed the transaction with sandals exchanged, a public declaration of responsibility and promise fulfilled. As the news reached Ruth and Naomi, their hearts blossomed with joy. Ruth rushed to Boaz, his eyes brimming with affection as he declared, "Fear not, for all that you have sought will be done." They rejoiced, for their entwined destinies lay not merely within a temporal marriage but within a divine tapestry of redemption. Days turned into preparations, the wedding beckoned and joy flooded the hearts of all who believed. Yet a divine whisper remained, echoing through the chambers of their souls: could it be that God's sovereign plan was more profound than they dared to imagine? Even as the couple's lives intersected in joy, unknown to them, a new chapter loomed: a journey through trials, redemption, and lineage that would span generations, leading to the throne of David and beyond. The Lord's faithfulness would unfurl in their lineage, but the path was still being drawn, shrouded in holy mystery. As they stood together, hand in hand, ready to walk into an unfamiliar future, the anticipation shimmered in the air. What would God unveil next in this divine narrative? The dawn of hope coiled tightly around them, and as the sun rose higher, the promise of their legacy began to shine: a lineage that would one day echo with the name of the Messiah. As the sun rose over Bethlehem, casting golden rays upon the earth, a new chapter dawned for Ruth and Boaz. The air was fragrant with the blooms of spring, and as they made ready for their wedding, the hearts of all in the town rejoiced. The elders had gathered to witness the union, their voices mingling in a sound of sacred celebration. Boaz, adorned in his finest attire, stood beside Ruth, her eyes reflecting the beauty of faith and hope. "My beloved Ruth," he whispered, amid the gathering of family and friends. "The Lord has led us to this moment, let us walk in faith, trusting His promises." The ceremony began, and as the vows were exchanged, heaven seemed to smile upon them. The blessings poured forth like rich rain. "And now, by the authority vested in me by the elders and the people of Israel," the priest pronounced, "I declare you husband and wife." As they turned to face their community, thunderous applause filled the air, reverberating against the hills surrounding Bethlehem. Naomi, standing at a distance, clutched her heart in overwhelming gratitude. "The Lord has indeed brought joy from the depths of sorrow," she murmured, the weight of years of toil and loss lifting from her shoulders as she witnessed the union. Yet unknown to them all, darkness lurked just beyond the horizon. A shadow of fear danced within the hearts of some in the town, murmurs of uncertainty about Ruth's lineage stirring up old prejudices. "Can a Moabite bring redemption?" they whispered, challenging her worth before God and man. But Boaz, a man of valor and integrity, heard the doubts that surrounded his bride. He rose before the gathered crowd, "Listen to me. Ruth has not come from Moab as a stranger, but as a daughter of faith. Her love for Naomi is a testament to her heart. It is not where one is born that defines one's value, but the work of the Lord within. The same God who brought us together shall magnify our legacy." The elders nodded in agreement, and the assembled people felt inspirited by Boaz's words. The once muted voices of hesitation transformed into shouts of encouragement, for in the eyes of the Almighty, Ruth was not merely a Moabitess, but a vital part of the unfolding plan of redemption. As the celebration continued long into the night, a radiant light illuminated their union. Boaz and Ruth had not only chosen each other but also embraced the purpose of God's plan. And in the depths of her heart, Ruth felt the stirrings of another promise, the hope of a child that in the quiet moments by the fire. Ruth confided in Naomi, "What if the Lord chooses to bless us with a son, one who shall carry forth the name of our family?" Naomi's eyes widened. "Oh, dear daughter, do you see it? The Lord's hand is upon you both, weaving a legacy that no one can anticipate." Thus, in the stillness of the night, under the vast expanse of stars, God's covenant was being fulfilled. A new line was beginning, heralding the greatness that would come from humble beginnings. Unbeknownst to them, the tapestry of history was being intricately woven, for through their faith and union, a future king was destined to rise. Just as the dawn breaks forth from night, so too did God's promise unfold, revealing that in every moment of obedience and faith, His sovereign will prevails. And as the day's joy faded into the night, a new question lingered in the hearts of both Ruth and Boaz. Could it be that the child born to them was to be a pivotal part of God's greater story, heralding the arrival of a Redeemer known to all nations? As the days turned into weeks, the joy of Ruth and Boaz blossomed in the warmth of their new life together. The fields around Bethlehem, ripe with grain, danced in the breeze, as Ruth would gather the harvest under the watchful eyes of Boaz. With each sheaf they collected, their bond deepened, intertwined not just by love but by a shared purpose foreseen by the Almighty. Naomi, witnessing this beautiful union, felt a stirring within her heart, a sense of anticipation mingled with faith. "The Lord is indeed with you, my daughter," she would say often. "He shall bless your womb and make you a light among the nations." Yet, amidst their flourishing life, struggles brewed on the horizon. During the gathering of the harvest, as the townspeople spoke, a chilling reminder of prejudice surfaced, like a bitter wind cutting through the warmth of their joy. "What of the children born of a Moabite?" a voice in the crowd clamored. "Can they be of the seed of David?" These whispers reached the ears of Boaz, and he felt a divine compulsion to rise against the tide of doubt shrouding his beloved Ruth. He called the people together before the temple gate, where elders sat. "Hear me, O Israel." His voice resonated through the assembly. "Who among you is blameless? Who can cast the first stone when we are all but vessels of the Lord's mercy? Ruth has embraced her place among us with unwavering faith. Let us not forget that through her lineage, God has chosen to set forth a great heritage. As Boaz's words reverberated within the community, a hush fell over the crowd, the atmosphere electric with the weight of his proclamation. Their eyes flickered between skepticism and awakening. Even the Gentiles may be called, he continued, for God has used the least to accomplish his greatest works. In that moment, Ruth felt a surge of divine hope, as the spirits of the townspeople began to shift, transforming doubt into affirmation. The love of her husband enveloped her, and she beheld his strength like an oak against the gale. In the days that followed, Ruth discovered she was with child, and the news brought waves of joy and trepidation. "I shall call him Obed," Ruth promised, placing her trust in the Lord's provision. The name resonated in her spirit, bringing forth echoes of God's promise to her and Boaz of deliverance and hope. At the birth of Obed, Naomi gathered the women around her, and their laughter mingled with tears, as they celebrated. "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you without a kinsman redeemer," she proclaimed, wrapping her arms around the fragile babe. "Through this child, may our family find renewal." As Obed grew, the beauty of his little life became a beacon. His laughter filled their home, a reminder of the promise God had sown into the very fabric of their being. Each day was a testament to the journey of faith, their lives now a living testimony to God's unfathomable grace and sovereign design, yet in the corners of their hearts lingered the question that danced from mouth to ear: would Obed's legacy indeed carry forth into the annals of history, charting a path leading to redemption for all? At the precipice of their divine narrative, marked by faithfulness and forgiveness, the future glimmered with promise. Little did they know, the unfolding story was aligned with the providence of God, the righteous who come from humble beginnings, set to usher in a greater light. And as the stars twinkled above, the heavens whispered of a lineage soon to be revealed, a line that would not only transcend earthly bounds but entertain the arrival of the true Redeemer. And it came to pass that as the seasons changed, and the harvest was gathered anew, the days of joy gave way to trials that tested the hearts of Ruth, Boaz, and Naomi. For within the village, whispers of unrest began to murmur once more. How could the child of a foreigner ever find favor in the eyes of God's people? They questioned among themselves, and doubt once more sought to entwine itself around their joy, yet Boaz remained steadfast, for he knew that the hand of the Lord was upon them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, casting a golden hue across the land, he summoned Ruth to him. "My beloved," he spoke with tenderness, "do not let the voices of men sway your heart. It is the Lord who has brought you to me and into this family. You are woven into our story, just as the threads of his love bind us." Ruth, holding Obed close, gazed into her husband's eyes, feeling the weight of his words envelop her spirit. "If our God has chosen to place his favor upon us, then I shall not fear. For it is written, the Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him." Lamentations 3 verse 25. We shall face whatever comes with diligence and faith. As the days turned into months, Obed thrived, and with each gurgle of laughter, his life echoed the love and unyielding faith that surrounded him. Yet outside their home, a shadow lingered in the hearts of those unable to embrace the miraculous work of God manifest in their midst. The clouds of doubt grew darker, and a growing resentment simmered within those envious of Boaz's stature and Ruth's beauty. Then came the day when a council of men gathered, led by a man of keen words and sharper tongues, who stood before Boaz and demanded, "Why should we accept this child of Moab into our lineage? Does he not carry the stain of foreign blood? Shall we welcome a heritage that some say is unclean?" Boaz, undeterred by their challenge, rose with courage, a beacon of faith in the storm. "Let it be known to all of Israel. Our God does not check the lineage of our fathers to measure worth. For the Lord sees not as man sees, man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." 1 Samuel 16 verse 7. Can our purity be tainted by what we cannot control? It is through Obed that God's promises shall flow. As Boaz spoke, an unseen strength filled the hearts of those who listened. Some began to nod, others exchanged glances filled with curiosity. The flames of doubt that flickered in their eyes began to dim, for they were reminded of the power of God's mercy that had been poured upon none other than Ruth with her loyal heart and unyielding spirit, who chose the Lord's people above her own, and it was then that Naomi found her voice amidst the crowd. Hear me, O you sons of Israel. You have witnessed how the Lord has turned my bitterness into joy. Through Ruth, I have regained my hope, a kinsman redeemer who provides, and now this child, Obed, is the embodiment of a future we can trust. For it is through such trials that we see his splendor. The men's hearts shifted, opened by divine whispers and the very presence of the God who draws near the broken-hearted. Yet with all this transformation witnessed, unbeknownst to them a shadow still loomed. There were other players in the tapestry of God's sovereign plan, and the echoes of history held mysteries yet to unfold. For even as Obed thrived, the world beyond Bethlehem moved toward a divine culmination, the moment when heaven would break forth into earth, and all of creation would beckon the arrival of redemption. The sun set on that day anew, shimmering with unfathomable glory, whispering promises still waiting to be realized. What marvels would come to pass through this union, through this line? And what long-forgotten prophecies awaited their fulfillment? The promise of a new day loomed on the horizon, ready to unveil a destiny shaped by the Almighty's hand. And it came to pass that as the days unfolded in Bethlehem, the hearts of the people began to shift under the weight of the truth woven in their midst. The council of men, now stirred by the words of Boaz and Naomi, murmured among themselves. Doubt was beginning to yield to curiosity, and the grace of God began to illuminate misunderstood paths. One day, as Ruth tended to her household, she received word from Boaz that a celebration would soon be held to honor their child, Obed. "Let us gather the people of our village and give thanks to the Almighty for his wondrous deeds," Boaz declared, and so it was that the news spread like wildfire through the streets, igniting anticipation in every heart. On the appointed day, songs filled the air, mingling with the sweet fragrance of roasted lamb and the sound of laughter as neighbors gathered to witness the testimony of faith and redemption blooming before their eyes. As Ruth held Obed, she contemplated the journey that had led her to this moment. From exile to acceptance, from grief to joy, she thought, her heart swelling with gratitude. As the guests filled their humble home, the spirit of celebration enfolded them all. Yet, standing at the edge of the gathering was a woman named Orpah, Ruth's sister-in-law, who had chosen a different path when the allure of her homeland had beckoned her away. She watched the joyful scene unfold with conflicting emotions, grappling between regret and longing. Sparks of doubt ignited in her heart, for she had not embraced the God of Israel as Ruth had. Seeing her distant gaze, Ruth's spirit was stirred, and she approached Orpah. "Sister, come and rejoice with us. Join in the testimony of what the Lord has done." Orpah hesitated, her heart heavy. "Can I truly belong among the people of your God, Ruth? My heart tells me of my choices, my past," she whispered, echoing the sentiments of the villagers who had first questioned Obed's worth. Ruth took a breath, recalling the words of the psalmist, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. God's grace is abundant, dear sister. Embrace his love, for it knows no bounds. The gathering grew louder, the joy of the people elevating the atmosphere to a divine crescendo. Boaz raised a cup filled with wine and declared, "To Obed, the child of promise, and to the grace that bridges our differences. May this moment be a testament of God's glory." Around them, hearts softened, and Orpah felt the pull of something greater than herself draw near. Tears cascaded down her cheeks as she contemplated the new life that beckoned. Suddenly, she saw the echoes of God's grace in Ruth's unwavering faith, and in that moment, a flame of hope ignited within her. Yet looming ever closer, unknown to the revelers, were forces that sought to unravel the threads of this joyous tapestry. For in the hearts of men, jealousy and bitterness mingled, whispering darkness against the blessings that shone bright as the noon sun. What would this newfound unity bear when confronted by the shadows lurking in the depths? As celebration filled the air, clouds of doubt still wandered among them, waiting for the moment to strike. And as Obed played at his mother's feet, a deeper mystery lay just beyond their horizon. Would this child not only be the bearer of the future but also the key to divine destinies yet to unfold? Were the prophecies of old intertwined with his very being? As the joyous echoes filled the night, the Holy Spirit stirred, setting the stage for revelations that would shake the foundations of generations to come. The promise of the Almighty whispered through the night air, calling his people to prepare for the unimaginable results of faith in the face of adversity. What would the coming days unveil in the history written by the hands of God? The promise of redemption lingered in the atmosphere, poised to unravel a tapestry only the divine weaver could envision. As the seasons turned once more in the lush landscape of Bethlehem, a majestic shift settled like a crown upon the hills. The child of promise, Obed, brightened the hearts of all who had witnessed the unwavering faith of his parents. Each smile exuded an unspoken bond that transcended the ordinary, a sacred connection akin to the high calling of generations past, proclaiming God's glory in a land that once echoed with sorrow. Ruth and Boaz flourished amid the growing community, their lives a testament echoing through the ages of redemption and the faithfulness of God. The villagers eagerly embraced the legacy of Obed, celebrating not merely a child born of lineage but a beacon of hope destined to impact lives. In the quiet evenings, Boaz would gather the townsfolk, recounting the story of Ruth's tenacity and Naomi's wisdom. "Remember, dear friends," he would declare, "the invisible hands of the Almighty have orchestrated this wondrous tale. These moments stitched together hearts and lives with threads of unity, a symphony of harmony arising amidst the diversity of their backgrounds. As the sun kissed the horizon, Ruth would cradle Obed in her arms, whispering the passions of a tender heart. "You are beloved of the Lord," she would say, her heart swelling with gratitude. The child cooed, his life already intertwined with the pulse of destiny, a promise of vitality flourishing against the backdrop of God's covenant faithfulness. However, shadows remained. As whispers of doubt and discouragement began to wane, they were replaced by murmurs of curiosity surrounding Obed. Would he inherit the blessings of God promised to his people? Or would the bitterness embedded in the hearts of some return to sow doubt against the divine narrative being unfolded through Obed's life? In the sanctuary of Boaz's household, Ruth turned her anguished thoughts into prayers as she knelt beside Naomi, who shared the wisdom of years. "Strength derives not from blood alone, my daughter, but from faith," Naomi reassured, her eyes filled with deep understanding. "Stand firm upon the promises of God. Our lineage mirrors his redemptive plan, not our origins." Thus, Ruth championed her prayer for Obed's future. As the seasons advanced, whispers turned to echoes, and the promise of God moved with renewed vigor and intent. As harvests multiplied, so did prayers for the child whom God chose to carry forth a legacy far greater than could be imagined. Soon the hour came when Obed, a spirited child under the watchful gaze of his parents, would take his first steps, each stride a proclamation of the faithfulness of Israel's God. The community erupted in joyful celebration, witnessing the entwined destinies executed through the tapestry of love and loyalty. Then came a shift, for as the nighttime stars glimmered overhead, a rumble erupted in the town square, where a voice raised in despair sought to mar the joy. A man, filled with envy and spite, advanced into the midst of the gathering. "Is this child worthy? Can he truly bear the name of God among the chosen? Look to his mother. She bears foreign blood." The challenge ignited a tremor of uncertainty, yet as darkness loomed, Boaz rose, the courage of a faithful servant igniting a fire in his chest. "I will not stand here idle," he proclaimed. "In the eyes of the Lord, all are welcome." Ruth, a Moabite, was chosen, her heart intertwined within the fabric of our community. Shall we forsake what God has woven together? The crowd, stirred by Boaz's conviction, began to murmur in agreement. Naomi stood firmly at his side, her voice cutting through the tempest. "Remember the tale of redemption. God has set forth his plan long ago, weaving us into one through perfect grace. Let us honor what the Lord has established." A wave of affirmation enveloped them, cascading into whispers of resolve. The naysayer faltered, for the truth hung heavier than his accusations. God's people stirred, united under an understanding that extended beyond earthly lineage. "Obed is not merely his mother's son," they began to recite, hearts igniting with fervor. "He is a child of God, born in grace, destined to fulfill the divine promise." The uproar of allegiance resonated through the town like a symphony, reminding each soul present of the Almighty's declaration, a proclamation that no earthly tradition could override the love and acceptance found in Christ's arms. Here, in the rich soil of faith, Obed would be nurtured, an emblem of hope uniting divergent paths into one covenant family. As the gathering rejoiced, the promise of God blazed brightly, spiraling forth a new chapter etched in the annals of history. Obed's identity would cultivate the soil of righteousness, leading a lineage that would usher in the true Redeemer, a legacy vibrant with love, justice, and unyielding faith. Thus, Ruth's heart swelled with gratitude, a bittersweet realization enveloping her spirit. Their journey mirrored the course of God's grand design, transcending trials and triumphs alike. As the townspeople celebrated under the starlit sky, she understood fully this was not merely a story of individual redemption but a profound revelation that would echo through the corridors of time, affirming that even the least among us can change the world through faith. And so, the legacy of Ruth, Boaz, and Obed stretched far beyond their humble beginnings, the banner of God's promises unfurling with unabashed fervor. In every heartbeat pulsed the sweet decree of the Lord, "My ways shall not be thwarted, for in the tapestry of humanity, I shall weave together stories of redemption from every corner of the earth." Therefore, let us arise with faith, embracing each dawn as an opportunity to align our hearts with His purposes, for in obedience lies the power to transform lives, to fulfill the sacred promises yet unspoken. For God has chosen us as vessels of His grace, destined to carry forth the illumination of His truth into a world yearning for hope. As the sun dipped beyond the horizon, casting a warm glow over Bethlehem, the promise of a new day processed like joy unto the heavens. What once began with loss now burgeoned into a perennial harvest, forever affirming that God's sovereign plan reigns supreme, biblical truths echoing across generations to come. Behold, an invitation for you. Do not miss what God is speaking through these powerful stories. If you wish to stay connected to His Word, and I urge you to do so, subscribe immediately to the channel, for more miraculous accounts await. Leave a like now, helping spread God's Word through the algorithm, and your influence can expand this truth far and wide. I implore you to comment your reflections and how Ruth's story resonates within you and your faith journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this testimony with at least 5 friends who need to encounter His transformative truth. For only true believers understand the importance of reaching more souls for Christ.